Well, welcome to Black Templar Workshop. In this video we're going to talk about some of the last remaining bits to do for the tower of the keep. Here I'm setting up the walls on the very tops of the tower, and this will complete up the panels I need to set for the structure to be completed as far as the walls and the building itself. Just some minor things here. The windows are a little narrower, Gothic style window on top. And again, using some masking tape to get it all mocked up so I can look at it from a distance to make sure it's the form and the size that I want to use. There's just windows on the left and right side. There's also a back piece, which I think I'm going to be inserting here, that doesn't have any windows in it. That's going to be behind. Eventually there'll be a rock wall built that'll obscure that section of the keep. So now I need to take a look down on top of the tower. Again, the mock-up is just showing me where things are going to go. And then to actually fasten it, I'm going to use some blocks of 1x2 pine that are cut to smaller pieces that will fit in each corner. Here I'm just lining them up to make sure everything's going to be in the right spot. I'm just checking for height, really, making sure that the block is lower than the bottom edge of the window. And on the front side, just making sure that the blocks are not going to prevent me from sliding some window treatment from behind on those tall cathedral windows. I have some ideas later I'll show about how I'm going to handle those windows. So just using a square edge to make sure that everything's going to look all right. It's not exactly precise, but it's just close enough. So once I get the main layout squared up and sure that everything's going to be the right size, and the dimensions of the fronts and backs and the sides are all going to produce a square unit, then I take off the tape and begin fastening the blocks. Like in the other videos, these blocks will be glued in, and then I'll use the air nailer to firmly attach them to the model. These panels come out and they get glued on the front and back before I run the pinner through them. I could have also put a strip of glue on the bottom edge as well, but I decided not to because there's really no need for that. I'm going to be attaching those walls with the blocks, those 4 blocks there, so there's really no point in adding extra glue. So just outside the frame of the video, I'm just running the nailer directly through the front panel, lined up to be centered on the side wall that I'm holding with my left hand. Just one pin to hold it in place. And I'm using that clamp to keep the glue squeezed up against the panel so I can put the rest of the pins in. Okay, now it's time to glue in the other side. Same deal. I'm going to be putting glue on each end of the wall. This process goes a little slower because I'm setting up a lot of different things all at once. I'm setting up the walls and the blocks, so everything won't be secure all at once. It'll happen slowly as I get everything placed in there. By using the pinner, I can secure it, or use a clamp in this case to secure it before I set the pin. Just making sure that the side wall, the right wall in my left hand, is flush up against the front panel. So now it's time to glue in the back wall. Just checking one more time to make sure it's the right size and will be square before I glue it in. And here I'm just using a simple machinist square just to double check the squareness of the wall. I leave it in there just so I can make sure that the wall is vertical. I'm just keeping my eye on that square as I finish tacking that thing in. Because of the angle that I'm looking at in front, I don't want to make the mistake of placing the wall in a slanted position. So I use the square to just double check that as I put it together. And I'm intentionally, you notice on the edges closest to the bottom of the video frame that the side walls overhang the back wall a little bit. That's okay. I may end up filing that down. I made those side walls a little bit too long, so I can just file off that edge to make it square later. Now I'm using a larger Jorgensen clamp to squeeze the side walls against the back wall, keeping the glue squeezed in tight. It's okay to put a little flex into the side wall. Not too much, you don't want to crack the plywood, but just enough to put the pressure on there. Got to find the right position to fit it in there. The clamp is much heavier than the part I'm trying to glue. And double checking the squareness of the back edge after I clamp it. Now I think I'm going to get ready to drive the pins in. It's hard to see from where I'm standing, so I have to be careful to aim it so the pin goes through the center of the back wall. I think in this video I might have missed the back wall a little bit and had to pull the pins out which is fine. They're headless pins, so they can be pulled straight through after you nail them if you miss. And because if you do miss, you don't want your finger to be anywhere near where the nail's going to go, otherwise it'll go into your finger instead of the wood. A couple pins on each side should be enough. The side's a little harder because I can't really see it that well. Oop, the clamp fell off. That's okay. We'll pin it anyways. Yeah, even if you miss and you don't get it in the center of the plywood you're shooting through, you can just move the pinner up to a new position and shoot another one, and then pull the pins out that missed. It may seem a little counterintuitive to nail the walls in before putting the blocks in, but actually it makes more sense because the walls I know are fairly square, so the blocks are really there to actually support it, not to be the defining position. The position is really defined by where the front panel is, and that's already part of the model. So what I'm doing here is I'm putting a taller block on top of the other block. There'll be glue underneath the small block, but that scrap block is used just to provide a way for the clamp to reach down over the wall. The opening of the clamp isn't big enough for the height of the wall, so I use a block on top of it to give me the clearance I need to attach the clamp, which will be a bar clamp. So there's the bar clamp pressed up against the scrap block, and then pushing down to squeeze the glue and hold it in position while I reach underneath and shoot that pin in more or less blindly, but I know exactly, I know roughly where it's going to be going, but it's underneath the top surface of the model. And pull that scrap block out. And just repeat that process for all the other blocks that are on the bottom layer there. Don't forget to glue it before you place it in there. You glue it on 3 sides, the bottom, the back, and the side. Here is just fitting the top block on those corners. So there'll be 8 blocks in total, 4 on the bottom and 4 on the top. Here I end up using two clamps, one to a Jurgensen clamp to clamp from the side on the block, and another C clamp to secure it from the front panel so that block is square into the corner within the top of the tower. Here's a better look at that since it's in the back of the model. I thought I'd just double check to make sure that the top surface is more or less square with the front of the model. And whatever imperfections you may end up with, it can be sanded out anyway, so it's not that big of a deal, but just want to get it close as I can. This overall process is fairly tedious, but at least it's 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 simple. It just takes a little bit of time to get them laid out, glued up, clamped in, and the extra time you put into setting up whatever part of the model you're working on, it'll make it easier. Just take your time and lay it out first with masking tape to mock it up, and then maybe one pin to hold a panel in place before you apply any glue or any final nailing. And having a few small C-clamps helps. Here what I'm doing is I'm making sure the handle of the clamp is in a position where I can easily get to it. So now I'm clamping it in two dimensions, side to side and front to back, to keep that block square in the corner before I tack the nail in. One nail is enough to hold it while I put in the other pins. So that's the process for putting in a block in the corner, whether it's the top or the bottom. So I think there's probably one or two more blocks to fasten in the front. Yep, I'm just using a plastic clamp through the window to keep that block in place, and then a C clamp to bring it flush to the side. So the process has been pretty straightforward so far, putting the blocks in and tacking them in. It's a repetitious exercise. All the examples I've shown so far on the top of the tower here, you can apply it to all the other instances where you need to put some blocks in to support the walls of the model. So we'll leave the tower for now, and I'll finish up the other side of the tower off camera, and then in the next set of videos we'll go back to the front of the tower, in front of the front facade of the Black Templar Keep, and finish up the moldings and decorations that go there. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, just drop them in the comment box for the video, and I'll put more videos up as soon as I can. Thank you.